There have been a lot of negative comments all over social media recently about homeschooling, specifically unschooling, which is the type of homeschooling that we do is we unschool. I really wanted to address the topic coming from someone who has been unschooling for 10 years, has an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 1.5-year-old who will be unschooled, as someone with a degree in developmental psychology, specifically child and adolescent development. I also have a child development associate degree, and I have taught in inclusive classrooms before I started homeschooling. And so, I have both professional and personal experience in this realm of child education and development. A lot of the negative comments and videos that I see that have tons of views are coming from generally people in their 20s who, one, don't have kids, two, have not been homeschooled or unschooled. They're just giving their opinion based on some TikTok videos, YouTube videos that they have seen. So let me kind of explain my perspective on unschooling and what it kind of looks like for my family. I have also started a new homeschooling channel that I will put in the description below. So if you like homeschool content, I don't post it a lot on this channel because those videos honestly don't do very well, but I am very, very passionate about homeschooling, and I wanted a platform to talk more about homeschooling. So you can go check that out after you watch this video. I'll leave it in the link in the description. The very first thing that I need to point out is that our current education system is wrong. It is developmentally inappropriate for children. When you are comparing unschooling to the alternative that is public school, private school, whatever the current education model that we have, you have to be aware that you are comparing the two. Even in the negative comments, just about every single person says, public school isn't perfect. There's a lot of ways we can improve. It's by no means the best way to educate your kid, but unschooling is worse. You can't take something that is inherently bad and not try and improve it. If you can sit there and say the public schools are not doing great for our kids, they're not developmentally appropriate, at that point, it is time to find an alternative. And unschooling is a really good alternative to public education. When I say that schools are developmentally inappropriate for kids, let me explain that. Research across the board says that children up until the age of about 8 years old, they need to be playing. Play is the best form of learning. That is how kids learn, is through play. No one can argue that in a child developmental standpoint, not even the school system. You cannot argue that play is so important. However, public schools is pushing kids sitting in desks and not playing. They're not teaching kids through play. They're wanting them to read, write, do math, sit in desk all day. And that is not correct. How can you sit here and have a whole system that, promotes child learning and you're doing it wrong? They are providing elementary age children with developmentally inappropriate activities. They're limiting their play. They're limiting their recess. They're limiting their physical education, their socialization, and they're putting them on these rigid schedules and routines that are not great for childhood development. It is literally traumatizing. The curriculum that is being used right now is really a one-size-fits-all curriculum, and all the kids are supposed to follow the same path, do the same stuff at the same time based on their age. And that is just not how kids develop. If you think about how a baby develops, we give a developmental range of when things are going to happen. All children walk at different times. It is normal for a kid to walk at 8 months old, and it is normal for a kid to walk at 15 months old. It is normal for a 1-year-old to be saying 5 words, and it's normal for a 1-year-old to be saying 50 words. When you put kids in a classroom, in a kindergarten classroom, you are expecting all the kids to be at the same level as far as reading and math and all these different subjects. And some kids are going to be developmentally ready for certain things, and some kids are not going to be developmentally ready. Studies across the board show that kids are not developmentally ready to read until they are about 7 years old. This is an average. So some kids are going to read before 7 and some kids are going to read after 7. And all of that is developmentally normal. We are expecting kids to start reading in kindergarten. When kids are not able to read in kindergarten, first grade, we are labeling them as being behind, being delayed. We're putting them in groups based on, how well they're reading. Like when my kids were in kindergarten, we started in public school and we pulled out when my oldest was in third grade. But they put them in groups of like red group, yellow group, green group based on their reading. Guess which group was which? It's very obvious, that the green kids are doing great and the red kids are not doing very well. So like we're putting labels on these kids that everybody knows, and it is really ruining our kids' confidence. It's ruining the parents' confidence, and it's not an indication of how intelligent that child is or how well the child is going to perform later on. It is kind of like you're just setting kids up for failure. It's also not great for the kids who are in the green group and are reading great and are really ahead, because as they get older, like generally they're going to develop, you know, really fast in some areas and then be behind in other areas. And it's going to make them feel that pressure to always be better than everybody else and be in the green group for the rest of their lives, get straight A's. And if they don't do that, because that is their identity, then they feel like a failure. And it's just not good for anybody's mental health to place all these pressures on kids, developmental pressures just in general. So let's say a kid is in kindergarten, first grade, and they're not able to read yet. A lot of times they will hold them back a grade, and you are holding them back a grade based on one single skill. And that one single skill is reading. And there is so much more to education and development than just reading. Our current education system teaches kids to hate learning. Kids are naturally curious. They want to learn things. People want to learn things. I want to learn things. When you put kids in a classroom, you're teaching them, most kids, to hate learning, to hate going to school. It's exhausting, it's tiring, it's stressful. They have to learn all these things that they're really not interested in. So they think that learning's not fun. They have to read books that they're not interested in. So books aren't fun. Schools only focus on one type of learning. That is the type of learning where you sit down at a desk and you listen to what a teacher says and you retain the information, or you read a book and you retain the information. What about the kids who learn by doing hands-on stuff or by movement or experimenting? Like none of that stuff is encouraged in classrooms, and those kids are being labeled as, being fidgety or, something negative that is seen as a negative thing when you're active in a classroom. The kids who often struggle the most are kids who are neurodivergent, kids who have ADHD, autism, dyslexia, kids who are otherwise very intelligent, capable people just struggle so much inside of the classroom because it is not designed to meet their needs. These kids are being labeled and disregarded and not being taught to their abilities. Quite frankly, this is holding back the advancement of our society. We need divergent thinkers to solve all of these issues in our world. School was beneficial during the Industrial Revolution when we needed factory workers to go in, clock in, do a job, clock out. That is how businesses ran back, for a long time. Well, we have entered a new age of the technological revolution, and things are completely different, but our school systems have not caught up to these changes. We need to educate kids differently. We need different adults in the working world, and our education system is falling behind and is not providing our kids what they need to be successful in the future. It is predicted that by 2030, 85% of jobs have not even been invented yet. Our workforce is changing so much. Our job market is changing. Technology is changing it. AI is changing it. Like, we need to be prepared and preparing our kids for a different future. A lot of people push back on this because it is scary. Change is scary, but it is a reality. It's also really cool because we are going to be able to have more creative jobs and do things that we love more, have better schedules, work remotely. Like all these things are good things. But it is scary. Change is scary. And you have to be able to adapt and prepare and plan for these things. And we've got to do a better job with our kids. So let's get into unschooling now. How do kids who are unschooled learn? The whole premise behind unschooling is that it is child directed learning. So the child is in control of their education and gets to decide what they learn. Now, I will say that I think that some unschooling parents maybe don't understand this concept or are not articulating it well on TikTok and social media and stuff. So people are not quite understanding, or hopefully those parents understand and begin to understand that that doesn't mean you just unparent your kid. You don't just let your kid do whatever they want, eat whatever they want. You have to be very conscious and aware of what you are providing your kids and what resources you're providing them and what you're modeling to them. Like you model a home of like learning and education, and you give them experiences, and you make them motivated to want to learn. And when you provide them with the right environment, they thrive and they want to learn so much. And it's so easy because they're so motivated. When kids are under the age of 8, that is generally going to just be playing with them. You're just going to let them go outside and play. How do they learn to read? Well, you're reading to them every day. You're reading it yourself. You pointing out letters and numbers. And, I have a 1.5-year-old. I'm going to be unschooling my 1.5-year-old. We encourage reading so much in our family, and we have letters everywhere. We read books together every day. And, my 1.5-year-old has already started to point out letters and name letters and sounds of letters and numbers and counting because that's the way we play. We play with those things. So it's really easy to teach kids how to read when you're unschooling, if it's just part of your life. As kids get older and become teens, I have a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. You become more of their learning coach and their facilitator, and you are working with them on figuring out what their future goals are to help them know what they need to learn, what they should study. Like as unschoolers, as you become closer to an adult, a teenager, you can study things. You start studying and do more book work and take classes. Unschooling is honestly more work and more parental involvement than any other form of education because you are so hands-on with your kids. You're very conscious and aware of providing them with educational experiences and opportunities that are tailored to what they want and what they need. It's also been the most fun way to educate my kids because we are like having a lot of fun together. My kids are motivated. There's no fussing or fighting to do their schoolwork. They just are motivated. They're self-motivated to do it. And it's just been a great like way for us to have a relationship. Parenting is hard. It is hard. There are hard parts about parenting, but the education part doesn't have to be hard. So that's all I have for this video. If you want to hear me talk about more homeschooling stuff, or you're interested in homeschooling, or you are homeschooling, I will link my homeschool channel down below. And you can let me know in the comments what your opinions are on homeschooling, unschooling. And then if you have any questions about homeschooling, you can leave them in the comments below and I will answer those on my other channel. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time.